What's up guys, my name is Jason and this is how I play my Hunter Ranger. Well, first off, this is going to be a long video, so I made bookmark points on what the video is covering. I'll be going over everything for the Hunter Ranger class, including powers, rotation, what stats I aim for, and extremely useful tips. If you're just looking for the feats for this build, feel free to use the bookmarks. But if you want to learn about the class, the powers, and why I picked the feats that I did, sit back and let's just watch. Oh, and also, if you're watching this and it's helped you at all, just leave a comment at the bottom or hit that like button. Alright, to start off, let's go over the build. First off is the Paragon path. I went with Pathfinder, and the one and only reason is because of Hunter's teamwork. This is the best at-will a Ranger can have. So when you use it, a money bag icon appears on your enemy, which is doing the following. Well, it damages them for a couple thousand damage, that's a given. It also makes them deal less damage, so that's sweet. Next, when a marked target is killed, they actually drop supplies, which when you pick it up, it will restore a small amount of action points, stamina, and hit points to everyone on your team. Now to be clear, Hunter's teamwork is an at-will, but for Hunter Rangers, we have one at-will for each stance. So now in melee stance, we have careful attack. This does the following. You study your target's signaling gaps in their defense. Enemies studied in this way are damaged by this power when they are hurt, which basically means you debuff them. When you debuff them, it allows you and your teammates to deal more damage to that target, hence the crosshairs when you use it. Alright, moving forward, let's go over to the powers. So here's what I use. Let's look at the at-will since you're now familiar with the first one, Hunter's teamwork / careful attack, and you know why I use it. The second at-will is rapid shot, and honestly, I don't use this one all that much. It's if anything, the melee is good just because of how fast you can slash your targets up when you need to, but in the end, you really don't need to use it. You're going through your rotation, you're going to be using encounters most of the time. So now for the encounters, here's the building blocks of the rotation. I put Hindering Shot, Hindering Strike into my X button. This initiates a feat called Master Trapper, which we'll go over in a little bit, but it also does a good amount of damage and also applies weak and strong grasping roots, depending on the stance. The second encounter is Constricting Arrow and Steel Breeze, which just as the last encounter does strong grasping roots, but it's the melee attack here that's awesome. Steel Breeze makes you spin and slash your blades, regaining your stamina for each enemy you hit. The third encounter, and my personal favorite, is Fox's Cunning and Fox Shift. For Fox's Cunning, this doesn't do any damage, but it allows you and your team, when ranked up to rank 3, to dodge the next incoming attack. So if you're about to get Kobe'd by a Trickster Rogue, as this will make the sound whenever they make that attack, use Fox's Cunning and you will dodge the attack. Extremely useful. Now for one of the best melee attacks you can ask for, Fox's Shift. This encounter allows you to strike multiple targets, damaging them and reducing their speed while increasing yours. Another reason this is awesome is it lets you teleport to a nearby location. So depending on where the enemy is, you can use Fox's Shift and teleport to their location, possibly dodging some attacks. Now everything that I talked about now can be used perfectly without any issues on both PvP and PvE until now. If you are focusing solely on PvP, you want to use these two, Aspect of the Lone Wolf and Crushing Roots. Aspect of the Lone Wolf is ridiculous. This grants you, when ranked up all the way, 20% deflection chance, and for each enemy within 15 feet of you, grants you an additional 2% chance, which gives you a possibility of a total of 30% additional deflect chance to whatever you already have. So if you're wondering how important deflect is, when I play Hunter Ranger, I'm constantly on the move. From Fox's Shift to sprinting to forest ghosting, deflection chance in this game increases the chances that you will ignore a large amount of incoming damage. Next up is Crushing Roots, and this one is extremely important in PvP. It's the main reason Hunter Rangers can dominate the way that they do now. So what's it do? Your weak grasping roots now also dazes the target for when up to rank 4, half a second, and strong grasping roots for 1 second. And quite honestly, I'll say it has to be nerfed. This is crazy amount. You might be thinking for a second, half a second, 1 second, that's not that long, right? No, you're right, it's not that long. But remember, I have 4 separate attacks plus more that throw roots to an enemy. When they added this, they completely underestimated how many weak and strong grasping roots we can shoot off as Hunter Rangers to our enemies, and how quickly we can do it as well. Alright, moving on, let's go over to Dailies. For PvP, this is easy. Forest Ghost, which allows you to go invisible for a few seconds while automatically striking foes, allowing you to move back to another node or get out of a 4v1 situation you can't handle. Either way, it's an awesome daily to have. The second daily, which also adds to your dazing effect, is Disruptive Shot. This actually headshots your target, dazing them for 1.5 seconds. Alright, so that was it for PvP. For PvE, we just need to change some things around. Remember, I built this around PvP, but it doesn't necessarily mean that this can be used for PvE. Alright, so first off, personals. We would need to switch off aspect. We would need to switch over to aspect of the pack and aspect of the serpent. To cover this quickly, I'll just say increased combat advantage for you and another member of your team, and stack damage. No need to daze your NPCs when you can just damage them to death. The other change we need to make for PvE is the dailies. The best dailies I've seen for PvE is Seismic Shot, as it can deal huge crits to multiple targets, and the other one is Forest Ghost. Alright, the rotation. This is extremely crucial. You need to know your rotation by heart. Messing this up sometimes can result in a death, so we want to try to deal as much damage as we can while also keeping our target root and dazed. For my rotation, I do Hunter's Teamwork followed by Hindering Shot. Then I press RB twice. Why? And why here? This starts up our feat called Biting Snares and grants the best and most valued feat we can have. When we apply Grasping or Thorn Roots, you gain Biting Snares. Biting Snares causes your next stance shift to grant you Master Trapper, which generates 20% of your action points, which is good for our Disruptive Shot as well. It increases our damage by a whopping 30% and also increases our control durations by 60% for 10 seconds. So what the hell does that last part mean? This means when we apply Grasping Roots after having Master Trapper engaged, we root them while also hitting them for that damage once every second for 10 seconds. So this happens. Alright, we got off track. So the rotation, Hunter's Teamwork followed by Hindering Shot, then I press RB twice, then I hit him with the Constricting Arrow, then Disruptive Shot. I hit RB again, switch over to Fox's Shift, then Hindering Strike, and since we lost stamina, we can regain it with striking them with the Steel Breeze. And then from there, you just rinse and repeat. Alright, over to the stat points. Dex and Wisdom all the way. If you can do a reroll, go with as much Dex as you can, as it goes into our damage and deflect. Wisdom is the other one that you want as high as you can. This goes into our crit chance and control bonus, which are both amazing for Hunter Rangers. And now for the ratings. People are usually like, oh, I need to get 1,000 crit or 10,000 whatever, yeah, which is great, but what's important is the chance. I aim to get around 35 or more crit chance and about 90% resistance ignored. For deflection, anything over 42% is good, but always look to get that higher for that deflect and the crit. One thing I want to also point out is regen. This increases the effectiveness of healing spells and also contributes to incoming healing, which plays into our lifesteal. So let me just take this time to explain lifesteal, because this is really important what I've learned. Lifesteal, which has been nerfed in recent mods, is still very effective. Lifesteal chance increases the chance to steal health from the target, healing you, which means the higher the lifesteal and the more damage you deal, the more health comes back your way to heal you. And for enchants, this might be a good thing to focus on. The feats. So here are the feats that I have. Let's start with the heroic section first. Weapon Mastery, 3% additional crit chance. Yes, please. Toughness, 9% max HP, which is always a good thing. Agile Combatant. As a Hunter Ranger, I'm constantly switching between stances, so an additional 3% damage is always a good thing. For the next one, I went with Swift Footwork, which helps me generate an additional 4% stamina faster. Another one that would have been really good is Predatory Action, but that gives you an additional 2% additional damage. And the way I looked at it, I was aiming for a PvP build, so being able to hit 200 plus damage on every daily, which sounds good, but it's not that much. If I can regenerate a little bit more stamina, that would actually probably help out more. Next one is Endless Assault, and this one is a free gimme. 6% more damage to your encounter powers. I have 6 different encounter powers. That's a lot of extra damage. Lucky Skirmisher is the next one. This one increases your deflection chance by 3%. Now for those wondering, hey, Nature's Enhancement is right above it. Why not increase your severity instead of the chance? And this is the same for crit chance / crit severity. If you increase your severity by a little bit, it increases the effectiveness, which is good. But if you increase your chances to get this severity, that's a lot better. The number of hits that Hunter Rangers deal to a given target is one of the most any class does. The better the chances that we can deal damage is more important than the effectiveness, which is why I always go for chance instead of severity. Next up is Disciple of Dexterity. Another freebie, this one increases the amount of bonus damage dexterity gives you by 6%, which is amazing, especially since I rolled all my stats towards dex. Alright, so obviously we're going to go Trapper build. These are all pretty straightforward, but I want to highlight the important ones. Trapper's Cunning. Alright, so this one's just awesome. So remember how I was talking about increasing your crit chance versus crit severity? This has a 25% chance to apply weak grasping roots to every crit you deal. So it doesn't matter if you're using an at will or if you're using an encounter. If you deal a crit, it'll apply weak, well, it has a 25% chance to apply weak grasping roots. And also, because we have crushing roots, it'll also daze them with those roots. This is probably another reason why we should be nerfed, but hey, let's take advantage before they nerf us so bad we hit like a bag of salad. And to add to this, ancient roots. This feat makes both your weak and strong roots last longer. Alright, and now let me talk about Serpent's Bite and why you shouldn't use it. First off, this feat obviously revolves around the personal power aspect of the serpent. What it does itself is amazing, but if you take off crushing roots, you won't be able to daze, allowing your enemies to attack you while they're rooted. But if you think dropping aspect of the lone wolf is a good idea, try it and see how long you last. I mean, I did it for a bit and it did not go too well. So, but this game's all about balance. I mean, I feel like you can have the most powerful character and be able to one-shot anyone, but you're probably going to get killed and be extra squishy. It's all about finding that balance between how much defense and how much offense you should have. You need to be able to hold your own against the best. For Hunter Rangers, that is lifesteal and deflect. So we have an extra 5 points, so why not increase your lifesteal? With Bloodletting, when you're in melee stance, which we are in for half of our rotation, we gain 5% more lifesteal. Alright, now over to the boons, and I want to make sure you guys understand, this is where things can drastically change depending on what boons your guild have or if you're not in the guild. So my guild, for instance, has a lot of armor pen, as well as the artifacts that I picked. So because of that, for the boons that I picked here, I tried to stay away from armor pen as much as possible. The only thing I'll talk about on here that's important is Tyranny of the Dragons campaign boons. For the last column, if you have 3 unlocked, here's what I would go with. First, 5% increased lifesteal, always. The second one is probably might sound a little bit confusing, but 10% increase incoming healing. Why? Because as I lifesteal, I would like to have additional incoming healing. Lifesteal is healing. Trust me, I know this from experience. Lastly, to make our roots even more hated, let's slap on an additional 10% increased control strength. Hey, if I can make it harder for them to break out of my roots, why not? Alright, so tips and things to know. If you're having difficulty against any great weapon fighter, as they're extremely beastly in this mod, switch Fox's Cunning, Fox Shift over to Marauder's Escape. And let me show you why. So for the rotation I use with this power, I do the following. Hunter's Teamwork, Hindering Shot, then I start Master Trapper, I hit them with the Constricting and Disruptive, then I come in close as they are rooted and dazed and go through my melees. Once I'm done, I move back and Forest Ghost. Rinse and repeat. So why so tactical against these great weapon fighters? These guys are freaking kryptonite. It used to be rogues and they gave us a lot of problems, but with less perma-stealths out there, they're a little bit easier. The great weapon fighters, on the other hand, will stun the shit out of you and will murder you with a few clean swipes of their sword. The best thing you can do is stun them from far away, then get close, do some damage, and then go back. Another good thing to know is with our artifact weapons, we can add additional power stats to them. For the main hand, I have increased the damage for the Hunter's Teamwork, Careful Attack by 12%. For the offhand, I have Crushing Roots and Control Bonus. 2 things to add to our roots and stuns. Also, regarding that Control Bonus stat, if you want to raise the amount that's increased, you can buy one of those Cube of Augmentations in the Wondrous Bazaar and try to roll that die and get a higher number, close to like the 400 max you can get. Gear wise, I have the Lost Mount set. Although the set bonus doesn't work for the roots, it still does an additional hit for weapon damage with every crit I get. I stayed away from explaining my enchants for a reason. Right now I'm having a pretty hard time finding the right balance, but I would say go with whatever you think should be balanced. If it's is your crit chance high enough, build on that. You need more power, armor pen, build on that. If you're not in a guild and need more armor pen, build on that. Or maybe you just want more lifesteal. Shit, I know I do. Regarding weapon and armor enchants, it's really an easy choice. Armor enchant negation all the way. And for the weapon, if you're doing PvP or PvE, the number 1 choice is Fade Touch. It has crazy stats and is an overall favorite. Another one I've been messing around with for a little while is the Life Drinker, but I haven't gotten a chance to try out a Transcendent one. but it adds to your lifesteal and severity for lifesteal, which basically, if used right, you can make you almost unkillable. But then again, I'll need to play around with it a little bit more. Well, that about does it. I just want to give a special shout out to mi amigo Rinoa at SD PuniSh R1, who helped me out with this build. If you have any other questions or comments, leave a post below. Also, if you're on Xbox, feel free to add me. My character name's Mini Lego at Jace4Yaz. Thanks for watching, guys.